Thank you, Presiding Officer. And it's good to be discussing this important topic since we were not able to last week, as my colleague Liz Smith pointed out. This spending review highlights the mismanagement of our economy by the SNP Green devolved government, with the highest core block grant ever coming from the UK government and more investment in Scotland than we have previously seen. It's ridiculous to see an SNP minister defend their economic decisions, as we saw last week. And let's be clear, the tough decisions that this devolved government are now facing is a direct consequence of their economic incompetence. And at the Finance Committee yesterday, I questioned the Cabinet Secretary on public sector job cuts. At first, I was given the usual smoke and mirrors, as we expect from the SNP, but eventually the figure of back to pre-COVID levels was mentioned. But most of that increase, if we look at it, was in health, and the Cabinet Secretary said there won't be cuts there. We have over 1,000 now at Social Security Scotland. I presume that won't be cut. We have an expansion of ELC, so I presume the Scottish Government won't be reversing that policy. So we can only presume that the hammer will fall in other areas, like policing, like firefighters, like teachers, like social workers, like carers, like refuse collectors, like road workers, like lecturers, who we need to upskill our workforce. Yes, of course.
Cabinet Secretary.
Is the member distancing himself from his Conservative counterparts who are proposing to cut 91,000 jobs in the UK Government?
Dr Lumsden.
Well, once again, we are in Scotland, but at least there is actually a bit of clarity. What we have for the Cabinet Secretary is more smoke and mirrors all the time. She gives no answers of where the jobs will be cut. The Cabinet Secretary needs to come clean with our public sector workers and let them know where the planned cuts to the workforce will take place. Presiding Officer, I want to focus on the impact of local government of the savage cuts proposed in this spending review and the impact of the wider economic situation on our vital public services. I've spoken before in this chamber about the importance of prevention in all our public services, the need for investment into preventative services that stop greater expenditure further down the line. And this is what I'd like to focus on today, a view I thought was shared by many across this chamber. This review spending has told us that this SNP devolved government are planning to cut the budget for local government by 8% in real terms by 2027. And the government's suggestion on how the local government will make these savings, reducing real estate, increased digitisation and more shared services, that advice to local government is actually an insult. It's teaching your granny how to suck eggs. This is what local government have been doing for the last 5 years to balance their budget in the face of SNP austerity. For many local authorities, the low-hanging fruit has gone. The efficiencies through digitisation have been achieved. The headcount reduction in conjunction with unions has been done. Presiding Officer, this deal means that jobs will be lost. Bins will be collected less often. Care packages will be cut. New schools will not be built. Roads will not be repaired. Sports facilities and libraries will close. All on this government's watch. It's a disgrace. And I will take an intervention.
Tom Arthur.
I'm very grateful for Mr Lumsden giving way. The RSR affords us the opportunity to consider our spending some 6 months out from when a budget will be presented. Can Mr Lumsden state what the total quantum he believes should be allocated to local government in the next financial year and following financial years?
Yeah. Dr Lumsden.
Well, I'll come on to the waste that this government makes all over the place. And also, if there was more transparency around the budget process, that might be easier to answer. You know, we had things in the budget for this year, like 620 million of a line of things that might see coming in, including Scotland. Now, that's been taken out of this year's budget into next year's budget, and suddenly the 620 million has miraculously just reappeared again. So prevention is much better than trying to tackle the outcomes of such austere measures. Our sports and libraries aid in health and well-being and prevent long-term illness. Our schools and youth clubs cut down on crime. Good roads cut down on accidents. New schools increase attainment and opportunities for all. I've taken enough. Cutting investment in our local government is short-sighted and will lead to greater cuts down the track. The SNP are also cutting off investment from key sectors such as oil and gas, which will have massive implications for the North East and Scottish economy. We heard at the SPICE SFC breakfast meeting this morning that one of the reasons our economy has fallen behind the rest of the UK is the decline in the energy sector and the income tax take from it. And it's clear the SNP government do not back the oil and gas industry, and they're driving investment away. While we still have a demand for hydrocarbons, it's better for the environment and better for the jobs in the North East that the energy industry in this country is protected and supported. This devolved government's outright hostility to the industry is directly related to the cuts that they are having to make to public services and the need to change their tune before it's too late. Presiding Officer, much has been said today about the cost of living crisis. Time will not allow me to go into detail here, but the UK Government have now provided over £37 billion of support to families. But here, families in Scotland will have to pay more income tax than the rest of the UK, a point covered earlier by Liz Smith. That is the Scottish Government's contribution to the cost of living crisis, higher taxes. And what is this devolved government doing with our taxes? £250 million on ferries that do not sail, £40 million on the doomed malicious prosecution of Rangers, £50 million on loans to BiFab, and now £20 million allocated for an independence referendum next year. This is £4 million more than they've allocated as an increase in the education budget. Colleagues, this is an absolute disgrace. This government holds their obsession to having a referendum above the education of our children. Presiding Officer, this spending review has so many areas of concern that we can only skim over today. I know that we'll have more sessions in committee, maybe, to go over in detail. But this SNP Green Coalition will need to put the needs of the people of Scotland at the heart of their policies and not of their obsession with independence. We need more spending to our local authorities to deliver our vital services. We need this false nod to an independence
Mr Lumsden, could you please conclude your remarks? Thank you very much. I now call Michelle Thompson to be followed by Michael Mara up.